record three of them? No.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot Arlene said she wanted to see the record. Um, yeah, off rip when he said that he was working super hard to be like the next Arnold Schwarzenegger and all that stuff, it made me giggle a little bit because I feel like we just read a book about a guy saying the same thing. But he was like working his butt off to work as a weekend manager at a Bally Total Fitness or whatever. And then they told him, hey, you got 90 days to like turn this around. And he took the sales from 40% to 115%, came back totally expecting his promotion, and they're like, hey, so like I'm gonna need you to stay there for like another 6 months or something because that promotion's already been given away. And he was like literally he said, I can't believe this man is looking at me in the eyes after not keeping his word, right? So that for whatever reason, you know, impacted me in some way, or that story, because then he turns around and he goes outside to cool off, like how which I'm glad he did, right? Because he had actually admitted that he at that time he was so young he couldn't process his decisions or whatever in the midst of all the feelings, like whatever he was feeling. He said later on in life he learned how to do it, but in that moment he literally had to go cool off, and then he just quit, right? Because he's like, yeah, I need to sit down, assess with himself, like what is it that I want to see. And one of the things that he put on his list is that he wants to like work for leaderships that keep their word, and at a job that where he can advance based on his own merits and not like the politics of the job. So that story, I really liked it for whatever reason. I highlighted all over it. I even made it on I put a little note on the side, like make a list of the things that you want to see or you want to do. Um, the other thing that I liked was it he said to live in your future truth means to live in the present as if your future truth has already become a reality. And then he expanded on how like entrepreneurs do that because they're like visionaries, right? So they're not just thinking about today and tomorrow, they're thinking about like, okay, what's my next venture? And then they just move like the thing's done, like, oh, yeah, I already met with 10 of these investors or whatever, and they just move already in that mentality, like, well, that's already done. I just have to go through the process and go through the motion because it's already done in their minds. And then it even said to surround yourself with use your heroes and visuals to remind yourself who you want to be. And then I just put big on the side like your vision boards. Like we talk a lot about vision boards, and I actually have like a little vision board on my cell phone that like I can see daily, but I only have like personal stuff on there. I don't really have like things like, oh, where do I want to, or where do I see myself, or where do I see my growth going, like in terms of like work and stuff. So I think I'm gonna revamp that and change that to, to include like work stuff. And then I wrote a really big like vision board. Um, and then the next thing was the most important person to study is the only person you're gonna have to live with for the rest of your life is you. And then he gave the example of like his friend that he had hired, and he was just like, oh, I quit. I don't really want to sell insurance or whatever. And then he had to sit down with him and like tell him, like, listen, every time you come to me and you say you quit a job, it's always your boss's fault. It's never your fault. So like what is it about you, or what, like, let's sit down and talk about it. And he was able to take his friend through those steps and ask him like, where do you see yourself? What are your ambitions looking like? And then his friend was super straight up, which I love the honesty of his friend, because literally there's a line here that I highlighted. Why try to act like Jeff Bezos or Richard Branson when you are wired differently and have different goals? So his friends literally is like, I'm okay with 150K a year as long as I have time to spend with my kids and get back home to dinner and like do have the life I want to have. Like I don't need to be a millionaire, and that's what I'm comfortable with. And the next question his friend had for him, like, but like people are gonna judge me because my goals are so low. And they're like, okay, maybe for them those goals are low because they have a different mentality. They're wired differently than you, and they want to eat the world like the guy Patrick. He's like, my goals are to like conquer this world, but your goals can be completely different and they can be high for you. Don't worry about like what other people say, like, oh, that's your goal, that's it, like 150K a year, you don't want 300K a year. And he's telling him like, if 150 is good for you and you're good and that's what you can like work towards and be happy with your family, then do that. So I just loved that little part of the raw honesty, because he even told his friend, I was like, and honestly, I want to sleep in some days. Like, I want to not have to do the most and wake up at 5 a.m. every day and have to work 13-hour days every day. So I loved that. And then when I got to a little bit later on to the four levels of why, this was a little bit of like a, I don't know. It was like a little reality check for me because when I'm going through the different like they had a like a hierarchy or a pyramid, right, of like your different levels of why. And then there's like survival, status, freedom, and purpose. And I'm like, dang. Like, and then I read the level one. Everyone who has a job to make money is focused on paying his or her bills. Some people stop here. And that's the first level. That's survival. And then I had to like sit here with myself and be like, damn, that's where I live. Like, I just work to pay these bills and that's it. Like they're like, oh, do you want to make seven figures? Why? Because of status, right? I think in my head I'd be like, okay, do I want to make six, seven figures? Yes. Why? To live in a nice house, I guess, or whatever. But I like that's not where I'm at right now. Where that's not where I'm thinking right now. So I literally had to say to myself, like, dang, I'm literally on level one. So yeah, I need to snap out of that. And then I love the benefits of the self-discovery and conducting a personal audit, which is one of them was the awareness. Awareness shows you that you are not the center of all your that you are the center of all your problems and your solutions. Again, have to sit here long enough to realize I'm level one and then go deeper to see why I'm still level one type of thing. Um, but yeah, so far so good. I really do like the book. I stopped right at page 60, so I didn't get to all the way to 75. Um, but yeah, that this I like it so far, and we'll see where it goes. That's just me.
Well, I'm super
Okay, fine.
honest.
I'll go next. I'll go next,
Go ahead,
Justin.
go ahead.
Um, so I didn't read to 75 also, but I loved everything that you said, Lola. And two things stood out to me. First of all, I don't hardly ever read the introduction because I'm like, that's a waste of my time. But what I loved what he said in the introduction was that, and he kind of a little bit contradicts himself, but like where you vision where you want to be, but do all the steps in between. And what I had remembered is when my husband was in the Olympics, he was one of the people that Canada didn't have hope for. They're like, he hasn't been around, he's not seasoned enough. But there was one of his teammates. They were like, he's gonna win gold. He has won like Commonwealth championships, all like always wins gold. So he went in, his teammate went in, knowing that he's gonna win gold. In his head, I'm gonna win gold because I've been winning it all way along. Where Jeff went in and he said, this is the match. I need to win gold in this match. And then I'm going to do the next match. I'm going to win gold in that match. And his teammate lost out. He got like eighth and Jeff didn't. And he was like a shocker. But he said, you have to like look at your goal. Obviously, he wanted to get to the finals, but you have to do each step of the way. So I appreciated being reminded of that too, because sometimes you look at someone's life and you're like, I want to be you. But it took hard work to get there. And he reminded us of that too. And then the other part I really liked was like when people say incorrect things about you and derogatory things about you, saying that you can't make it or this is a stupid thing that you're doing, et cetera, et cetera. I love that he said he took the fury of that and used it for like energy. That's not how he exactly said it, but that's how I read it. And no, I love that because you could like be like, they're right, I suck. Or you can be like, you know what? Not that you're going to show them a thing or two, but you're going to show yourself in spite of them a thing or two. And I really love that. So those are the two things that stood out to me.
I like that.
That's it.
There
What's so
was a
funny
little
is I
part
think
later
that
on he
they.
said that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lola. What was
So
that?
there was a little part later on where he said that, where he's like, where the couple was fighting in the elevator, and they were like, mind you, they were fighting in front of like strangers that they did not know were friends with the main guy, and they were like arguing, and then later the main guy introduces them like, guys, here's my friend so and so, Sheena, I think it was, and they're like a power couple, and everyone's like giggling because they're like, yeah, power couple, they were just like fighting their asses off in the elevator, right? And then they had to tell him like, oh your friends just caught us all fighting in the elevator. And he told them straight up, like, well, that's what marriage is. Like, not just in your marriage, but like in your business. Nope, everybody wants to pretend they have like this great marriage and stuff or this great business and stuff, but nobody really wants to acknowledge the fact that it takes hard work and fights and failures or whatever to get to that part of it. So you reminded me of that part too.
Shannon, my daughter just asked me, I didn't see it. She was like, "Did she break her arm?" She's she's sitting here next to me, and she's like, "Did she break her
Yeah,
arm?"
look, I got a pink cast today. Yeah, I did. I broke my wrist last week hiking, last Wednesday. So, yeah, fun times.
You were
First
supposed
break
to
in
be
my
in book
whole
club,
life.
but you were hiking. I see how it is.
Whatever, you guys. It was my daughter's birthday. We wanted to do this really high hike, and it wasn't that I couldn't do it. It was my runners. Jay didn't hear that part, but yeah. So I had a white cast on that was plaster, but this is fiberglass. And guys, I can swim now. I can wash my own hair. So it's gonna be good.
I love that. I think it's funny because in the past, I think the past three books, I think Ron and I were talking about it, brought it up last time or the last book, is that like the intro, I usually don't read those intros either. Because I just think that it's I don't know, I don't know, I never think that they're really interesting. But like the last book, I loved the introduction, and this one I liked it because I think it really tells the story of who the author is and like why they are who they are, and it kind of gives a little bit of background and like talk about they were like the most likely to succeed kind of thing and kind of where they go from there. And to your point, Shannon, about like using the people that doubted you as your fuel. So I just got the book yesterday, so I haven't gotten very far. But I got a little through the first thing, and obviously it feels a little bit like more basic at the like I'm only in the first couple pages, so it's basically like use your haters to fuel you. This is what will drive you. This is what you have to get to know yourself, master yourself first. I mean, things that I think are a little bit more obvious, but like I like how he dives into them and tells his story. I think like the past couple books that we've read, they usually have been doing really well in terms of like being able to apply what they're telling you to a actual something that you can actually relate to. And so it like helps you kind of visualize what that looks like and actually then helps drive you as well. So I am excited to read this, and Lola, like the way you went through described everything, like it gets me kind of excited to kind of go through this because I think it sounds really good. So I will promise you I'll be more up to date for next meeting, but I'm excited from what I've just read in the first couple pages.
What's happening, everybody? Well, yes, this one it just kind of hooked me right from the beginning. I have thoroughly enjoyed this one so far. And kind of your point there, Justin, I actually thought of you when we were going through because both you and Ron had mentioned that from last time. I was like, I wonder if they're reading this intro. It's a great intro. Like, is he just skipping this? He's missing good stuff. So no, that's awesome to hear. I think kind of going through this one here right away. I think that's an excellent question. We're talking about who do you want to be? And I think there's a lot of different books that we read where it kind of becomes, that's kind of the gist of it. But I think him calling it out right away is a super important piece because I'm excited to see where this whole book goes. But without knowing that question, like, are you trying to be Jeff Bezos? Are you just trying to be whatever? Like, and he gave that one, not everybody wants to be that. And it's important if you can figure out what it is that you truly want to do, what is truly important to you, solve that problem, you are going to find so much more happiness and joy in life. And he gave that example of, I think it was Sean was the employee came in, who's the constant quitter of all of his jobs, and he finally called him out on it. And, he realized, what does he need to do? And it's make $150,000 a year, and he's going to solve all of his problems. Great. Well, let's solve that problem and then just look at the turnaround there. The doing the self work of figuring out yourself in the study the most important parts of you. And there was this line right here where that's right here. Yes. Studying others gives us knowledge, but studying yourself ultimately leads to an incredible amount of freedom. And I think there is too much of you're always worried what's going on with somebody else, what's going on, how do I impact this? But it's like, are you truly studying and taking that reflection in and upon yourself to figure out and grow? And I think that was a great reminder of that one. And learning about what your shortcomings are, but can they actually be an asset and figuring out what those are in your life and don't let them hold you back. How can they accelerate? So I love that one. I love the talking about you trying to be an entrepreneur versus entrepreneur and just really breaking that piece down and what the differences are between the two. I'd never really paid attention or even heard the word entrepreneur. I mean, but just in this context is how we brought it through of just how can you be an asset for somebody else? But kind of as he called it, he reminded me of Jay as, he's talked about different moves you've made, Jay, to you're not going to let somebody else control your destiny. And that's kind of what he was running into was he was trying to do these ideas, trying to help everybody win, and he just kept getting shut down. So he's like, no, I'm going to control my life. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to grow. I'm going to grind. This is me. I'm going to make it happen. Love that piece there. And then one of my favorite things was towards the beginning, that mural he had created with his 10 mentors. And like in the book itself, looking at it there and just everybody and what a diverse group that he's actually gotten there. But what a cool reminder and a cool idea of if he was in a room with these 10 people, and I love how he said he even left an empty spot for somebody else in the future. But why he picked these different people of both John Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln, their similarities, but also their differences and why they were powerful. Both Albert Einstein, Milton Friedman, their similarities, but also where they differed. But it's okay because you're getting different viewpoints. But anyways, I loved that piece. And then lastly, there, in this last section before we got to was the power of processing ideas. And ultimately, this whole book's about being able to think ahead more than just what's right in front of you. And have you thought about what is in front of you happening and how are you going to solve it? Like always being a little bit ahead, not trying to be 12 moves because then you can get lost in analysis paralysis, but can you be 5 moves ahead? And I think back in my life in places where what has happened, I had already thought about it, so was able to solve it, and it was just a minor speed bump versus things that had come along and just totally derailed something because it wasn't even on my radar. And why? Because I hadn't thought about it. And so just this overall book and the way it's making me think, like excellent storyteller, him overcoming challenges, another fantastic deal. Like it's just, I cannot wait to go and cruise through this book. Now, Crystal and I will be gone. We fly out Sunday. We'll be over in Italy, Rome for 2 weeks. And then Croatia. So, we'll be with time zone difference. Who knows if we'll be logging on for the next 2 book clubs? But no, I cannot wait. I literally told you last night. I was like, I'm actually kind of bummed we're going to miss conversations 2 and 3 on this one because I want to hear
You're going to be in
it's just
Rome.
such a
Come on
good
now.
start. So we'll be having a great time. But yeah, no,
I'm totally jealous.
It's been awesome so far.
Chris, is that just a vacation you guys are going on?
So part of it, the Croatia portion is Danelle's mastermind. That's what she wanted to do, her next one there. So
Okay.
part of it is there, but we figure as long as we're going that far across the world, let's add on some extra time and check out Rome. So
Facts.
we're flying.
Yeah.
We're flying in and out of Rome. It's Seattle to Rome, straight shot on that one. And so that's what we're flying in and out of. So we're going to get to Rome, spend the night there, then hop over to Dubrovnik the next 6 days, and then hop back to Rome, and we'll have 3 days there to check out and then fly back. So
I love Rome.
yeah,
Nice.
excited.
Yeah. Solid plan.
Well, I just first of all, I just want to start off with saying I love Lola and everyone in here when we're reading these books, the self-reflection, because I think that's the most important thing with the book is being able to like actually take the information, look at yourself and say, oh, wait, maybe I'm stuck here and maybe I need to go further. And then I think the second thing is, he talked about all the books that he's read. And I think about all the books that I've read and everything that I apply on a daily basis. And then I think about other people that one that don't read and they don't have things to apply, and two people that read that don't apply it. And it's like, as we're reading all these books and we're spending this time making the best use of this time and actually implementing it. And so like, as I was reading this and I read the introduction too, I didn't know you guys talked about introductions. I usually always regret reading an introduction and wish I got my time back when I do it. But I always read them because I just feel like I'm going to miss something if I don't. A lot of times on Audible, it doesn't play the introduction. And this time it played the introduction. So I usually read the introduction and then, listen to the rest once it takes me to the first chapter in the book. So I really liked it. And I loved how he talked about business, of it being basically a war and it's up and down, and it's not consistent. And if you want something consistent, you don't want to be in business. You don't want to be an entrepreneur. That's not what you want to do because you'll just go crazy and you'll go mad. And as I'm reading the next 5 moves, I know it's a business book and I know Patrick Bet-David well, personally. I also think about the personal side of your next 5 moves inside of your relationship or with your kids or like having a plan with every single thing in life. And so like I of course my business brain is always working, but when he talked about that photo, I'd actually seen that photo in person and thought it was a great idea. He had someone paint that for him, and it's in his cigar lounge. And I just think that, hold on one second.
As he's taking a
I
quick break.
just
Oh, I was gonna say you
uh,
reminded me of when you said other books as he called out Power and Force. I was like, I was hoping I'd never hear
yeah.
about
Yeah.
that book again in my life. But on this on this page, he summed up the entire book right there perfectly. We could have avoided an entire section of book
Yeah.
club with just one page of Power and Force. That's it. But
It's
anyways,
funny.
that
So
was
it's funny. I read that book because of him, because of the conversation I had with him. So that's why I got recommended to the book club. And I know it was arduous. It was an arduous read, but um. So, anyways, I mean the story about the $150,000 guy. Like, I feel like I've gotten better in my life at this because I used to be very judgmental of people that wanted to just get by. To not mention any names, my brother, he just, doesn't have a lot of drive, right? And for years, it's driven me crazy. And finally, when he came to work for me, um, and he was worked for me for 3 hours, and he said to me that, he's, is filling his car up twice a week, and the Walmart is 2 minutes from his house, and he kind of misses that. In that moment, I just realized we're very different, right? His priorities and what makes him happy and makes him tick. And I had to accept him for that. But all those years it drove me nuts because I was just like, you have so much more. We came from the same household. So I think, that was a big part of me, just to kind of remind me, like, to accept people where they are. And I always say in sales, meet people where they are, not where you want them to be. And I feel like, you'll have a lot better relationships with people if you meet them where they are versus where you want them to be. Because, you can mentor people, but most people, a mentor is there maybe an hour a week, 2 hours a week. And where it really counts is every single day they wake up and doing the right things and making things happen in their life. And most people just aren't going to do that. So you got to accept the energy that they're willing to give you, and or you know separate yourself, or don't work, or don't partner, or don't. So I have some people in my life right now that are in this realm, so it's very close to me. And that I've kind of, like, in business, I've had to separate myself from some bit because we're just not on the same page. And they have a squirrel mentality, and when something else comes up, they're like, their focus just completely focuses, and they're always running after a different nut instead of focused on, like, building a couple nuts, or working on a couple nuts that are working. So for me, the book it's a really good start. The intro is a great start. The first 75 pages is a great start. He's definitely a great storyteller, and tying analogies to the five next moves. So I'm really, really enjoying the book as well. And I love when my team is self-analyzing and looking within, because I think it's just, if everyone did that in life without ego. Because Lola, you don't have to share any of that stuff that you're sharing and be so transparent, but it just shows that you're not coming from a place of ego. And that's what books should do for us. We should come from a place of transparency and just being real, and seeing how these books can help us. And again, maybe it's taking the second step, or maybe it's jumping to the third step, or whatever. But just knowing what those steps are, at least there's an awareness in our brain that we can be like, hey, you know what, maybe I can give a little more, maybe I can push a little more, maybe I can do something differently to fulfill myself, not to fulfill other people. So I think it's great. I think it's a great pick. I've been wanting to read this book for a long time, but I actually forgot about it. So thanks for being on the journey, you guys. And enjoy Italy, Chris.
I
Don't
can't
forget about
wait.
me.
That no, never been to
Yeah.
Dude,
that part of the world, so can't
it's
wait.
only 7 o'clock over there. So there's no excuses whatsoever why you cannot jump on. Dinner doesn't start till 9 o'clock over there. So you have like 2 hours before dinner.
All right, if that's how it works out, we'll see what happens.
You guys are
I'm
all
kidding, dude.
We got to leave the Coliseum. We got to get over there. Sorry, Pope. Like Vatican, yeah, we got to go. We got to book
Oh,
club.
the
So
Coliseum closes at 5 o'clock. You're good, dude. Between
okay.
5 and 9 is you have 4 hours to rest, and, like,
Oh, we did get. I got this advice from actually a friend who was just over there. She goes, Rome is so busy during the day. She goes, best advice: get up super early. Nobody's out and about. See all the stuff you want to see. Take a midday nap. Wake up. You're gonna have your late dinner anyways. Like she goes, that's how you see Rome. I was like, all right, let's check it out.
The
So,
cost
Well,
of
yeah,
living
a lot of
fast.
things in Rome close between 1 and 3:30 anyways. A lot of
perfect.
the stores or restaurants because they take siestas every day. So I mean some of the stuff just shuts down.
Yes, does. We need to
Perfect.
implement that here in the US.
Yeah.
Well, have fun, Chris. Say hi to Krista for us that we missed her today.
Will
Shannon,
do.
please
Thank
be careful on your follow-up hike, girl.
Yeah,
She
don't
she
fall.
broke her hand hiking and she's about to go hike again.
Yeah, don't do the other one. A friend of mine had that happen to him in high school skateboarding. He broke both his wrists in the same trick,
Oh my God.
and that's what
Okay,
he said.
first of all, that's really rude that you'd even say that. Obviously,
Well,
I'm
I'm just saying, don't because the stories he had to tell of, he goes, you know how hard it is and embarrassing as basically a mini adult to have your dad have you wipe
Mini
you,
adult.
like
no,
Man.
you're saying. So
No,
that's what
dude,
I'm saying.
listen,
Don't do
Shannon's
it.
got she's got a bionic arm now. Like it doesn't matter if she
Good,
falls, she can just fall on that and it's gonna bounce right back up.
right?
Perfect.
Anyways,
There you
I
go.
fell 3 more times after I broke it and it slammed on my butt. So see, that's what the butt's for.
There you go. Get up, keep going.
You guys are awesome.
So
All
fun.
right,
All
we'll
right,
see you
guys. Have
guys
a great
next
day.
week.
See ya.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.